What's your lemonade stand story?
And he was like, YouTube's going to be the next big thing, Devin. Like, you need to get on that. You need to get on it early. And I'm like,
And all of us, we all go through our own trials, our own level of stuff.
Sure hope this works out. Otherwise, this will be a huge waste of time.
I mean, what else is it all about other than just taking risks and continuing to try and grow and hopefully get better and better at making things?
Most of the billion-dollar brands you've seen were started by people that were just solving a problem for themselves.
We're telling lemonade stand stories from some of the world's top creators, makers, and go-getters.
We're rolling right now.
Hey,
We're having fun. We're rolling.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this podcast today is sponsored by Yalla, a task management and team collaboration software that we use at Lemonade Stand. We use Yalla to keep all of our team members organized, wherever they are. In fact, we used it to plan and organize this podcast. Visit yalla.team, that's YALLA.team, and try it for free. We also have a special offer for all listeners of this podcast. Use promo code LEMONADE and get a lifetime 25% off if you upgrade. What's going on, guys? This is Champ Prabhakar with the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast, and I'm here with my dear friend Maclain Nelson, who has also brought a special guest with him, Tinky the dog, who is the star in and of itself, right?
Yes.
Is incredible. But you guys, honestly, Maclain and I, we've known each other for quite some time now.
Yes, ninth grade? Since ninth
grade, I believe.
Which was 94?
Was it 94, 95, something like that, right?
Yeah,
geez, it's been a long time. And this was back before the internet. The internet was just barely becoming a thing. In fact, my dad was trying to explain what email was to me. I'm like, Dad, I don't think anyone's ever going to use this. That's why he's a computer engineer and I'm not. But Mac always loves to say that he is responsible, and I will give him credit for my entering into the film industry, because he put me in our high school video that aired in the auditorium.
I gave you your first role.
He really did.
Yep.
The thing that this podcast would not be a good podcast if I did not talk about the catch herd around the world. You know, this is my favorite story of all time. I have got to say this, but you guys, here's the deal. High school football is a big deal. It's a big deal. All right. And anyone that says otherwise, well, they're fools. We were 4A school, I believe, and this was the year, and it was a really powerful year because our good friend Sam had passed away, and so there was this whole thing of hey, let's get I felt like that whole year, our senior year, everyone was we've got to do this for Sam, we got to do this for Sam, right? And I remember our team went so far, and then the semifinal game was, I think, against Brighton, I believe. Highland, right? And they were really, really good. Yeah. And they were definitely we were definitely the underdogs in that game. But somehow or other, Maclain, the guy, he just fought and worked so hard, and the last second, would you intercept it or something?
Yeah.
Or you intercepted it. And we won the game 41-40. It was such a tight game, very, very tight.
That's a good memory, man.
Dude, I listen, after high school, it's nothing matters anymore. And then we ended up winning the final game, and it was a really special moment. But it was a great time. So
I appreciate you keeping that alive,
dude.
So I don't have to brag myself. You can just brag for me.
I will talk about it. Don't worry.
Now I'm on podcast holding my movie star dog.
Your movie star dog. But what's cool is I remember you were the sports guy, but you did do drama, and you were in Hamlet, I believe, in high school and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I never was able to do the fall musical because I was always playing football.
Right.
But I did audition for Hamlet. I did do the state competitions, and then I also did all the video announcements and the video, for student government. So that was kind of how I got in. That was my first real taste of film. Yes. And when I really realized, I like film. You know what I mean? I theater's cool and all, but I want to do movies.
You want to do movies. Yeah. And it was cool because I remember even after high school and as you started to get into college, I'd be randomly walking around BYU campus, and a whole section of some building would be closed off because you were filming and you were the director or you were acting in it or something. You were doing something, and I'm wait, is that Maclain? Is he doing stuff? And I just remember like kind of watching you like from afar a little bit, but like seeing you like work your magic and producing, and you were doing a lot of producing and doing a lot of acting. And I always loved seeing what you were able to do and like put together and I guess create. But I believe Once I Was a Beehive was your first movie that you directed. Is that right or no?
No,
wrong?
it wasn't my first I directed. It was the first I directed alone. I've co-directed a couple movies, but cool. Once I Was a Beehive was the first one that I had like written alone and directed alone. You know, I mean, Haley Smith, you know, we came up with the characters together, but I wrote the script myself.
You wrote the script, yeah.
By the way, is this dog, is it so distracting, her panting, or are we...
Okay. I mean, listen.
Right. Awesome.
Wherever Tinky is, that's where our audience's hearts are going to be. That's for dang sure. Well, it was interesting because when you made that movie, and I remember like you were over at my apartment because my roommate was scoring the movie. Yeah. I remember thinking like, Mac, this is genius because like you were able to like create like a really adorable, awesome story that hit like a market perfectly, and you understood things that I felt like a lot of other filmmakers didn't understand. Whereas it was like, oh yeah, we just want to make a cool movie and stuff. You're like, yeah, I want to make a great movie and I tell a great story, but I also understand the business sense of it, and I also understand like, hey, this is a specific market that I want to hit. So why were you drawn to that market? Honestly,
I mean, a little bit. So I produced a movie and acted in a movie called The Saratov Approach.
Yes.
I played elder props in that, and that was like the first one I'd done in like kind of the specific LDS space.
Yeah.
And it worked out well because we made it. We tried to make it so that not just people of the Church of Jesus Christ would be interested in it, but everybody. So after that one did well, I was kind of like, you know, maybe there's some other stories. I never really set out to make, you know, specifically religious movies, but like because it crossed over and because people liked it, I thought, you know, maybe there's a space for this. And I had for some reason a weird fascination with girls camp because my mom was a camp leader for years and years, and she was like the super, you know, over the top leader who had everything planned to, you know, so. And she would brag about how cool girls camp was and how, you know, if guys only knew how awesome it was, they would want to go so bad. And I tease her a little bit, but you know, just something about that world sparked my interest. And then my good friend Haley Smith and I kind of like, you know, brainstormed about like if we were to do a movie, you know, I have some really talented female friends and actors, and I wanted to do something that gave them a platform for them to, you know, show how amazing they were, like Lisa Clark and Haley Smith, and of course my wife Claire Niederprum. Yeah. So we just kind of came up with this, you know, this world, and then I took a deep dive into that, of what that was all about, and you know, most people say that you know that I captured the world pretty well, even though I never experienced it, but I definitely did my my research.
Well, what was cool was like back in the 2000s there were like a whole string of movies made in the LDS genre that came out, like Singles Ward and stuff like that, and like the first couple were a hit, and all of a sudden I felt like they were kind of like not hitting the audiences. And I felt like they weren't hitting the audiences because either they were making a little too much fun of it, or they weren't making it as relatable. People just weren't connecting, right? But Saratov Approach, which is a movie I loved. And I mean, you know, we went to high school together, and Corbin and we actually served our missions together. So there was like a lot of connections I personally had. And I remember watching that movie and being like, oh my gosh, like I am totally moved right now. And like, I'm really connecting with this story. It's amazing. And your performance was incredible. And I remember thinking when Once I Was a Beehive came out, like, you made the story, like, you know, you had like the funny over the top leaders like Barda and everything like that, did such a great job. But Paris's story and like her storyline, like it was something that people can really latch onto and like feel like this connection to. So much so that I feel like that movie was like a massive, massive success. And I don't even know if you remember this, but I made like this huge announcement in my church ward. I'm like, guys, you got to go watch this movie, you know, like, and it was hilarious. But
love it.
But the thing was, it was really cool, and like it reached a huge audience. so much so that like you're like, all right, we're gonna make the next one, and that's what you just barely did with Once I Was Engaged. And I feel like in so many ways you definitely leveled up.
Thank you.
And from the previous one, not that like your storytelling was bad before or anything. Like, it was great, but it's like production value was better. I mean, you guys were in Hawaii shooting the film, which probably has its own challenges.
Yeah,
you know.
I definitely hope I am getting better as a filmmaker.
Well, you definitely are. So can you walk me a little bit through Once I Was Engaged and how that all came about?
So we were, the first movie was. It started slow, but it gained steam and gained traction and gained a lot of fans. And people kept saying, can you do another one? Like, are you going to do another one? And we were thought about it, but, it was a lot of work and we just, we weren't sure. I didn't really have something in mind. I didn't plan it to be like more than one movie. Yeah. But because it did so, it gained in popularity, we just decided to explore it. And Excel Entertainment, who did our DVD release, was very interested as well. So they wanted to, get on board early. Yeah. So we partnered with Arthur on that. And then I wrote a script, actually, probably 2017.
Oh, it was
so
a while
I wrote
ago.
it a while ago.
Okay.
And we were planning on going and doing it, but then I don't know if you know how many of the listeners know Lisa Clark's husband, Chris Clark. He got diagnosed with ALS.
Yeah.
And
Lisa's been on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, okay,
and
great.
She's told us all about it.
Yeah. So Lisa, she went from being like, okay, yeah, let's make this movie, everything's fine, to my husband's sick, I have to take care of him. It progressed over, over some time, but she became like the main breadwinner. So she was very unavailable to do the project for several years. One of the reasons why we didn't do it until shoot it until 2020. But and then there was one point where we were thinking about shifting the focus to maybe making it about Charlotte's character, because we wouldn't have access to Lisa really, other than like in a smaller role, because Lisa has such a big role in this. Yeah. But we kept it, kind of floating. There was one point where we were going to try to have Chris play the dad. There was a bunch of different kind of iterations, just because we really felt it needed to be about Carrie Carrington and Bree Carrington. Yeah. But in the end, it didn't really work out. So I kind of thought we were never going to make this movie, just because, the window was going to pass, and then we, you know what I mean? Like,
and then.
But but later, so Chris passed in last June, and a year ago, So and I wasn't, obviously, I was very hesitant to even bring it up to Lisa. But a couple months after, we were talking, we're very close friends. We're like brother sister close, and we in conversation it came up, and I just said, hey, I do feel like it's time, like that I want to do something with this script, but it's up to you. Like if this is something you want to try to do, I want to do it. Yeah. If not, then there's plenty of other things, you know what I mean?
We can all do. Yeah.
But she said yes, and and we were in the middle of a pandemic, so it was like we had to do something, and so it was this very, very silver lining in the cloud that we were able to put this together. And it kind of became like a very much of a healing process making this movie for all of us as friends.
Sure.
We'd been isolated from everyone. When we were able, we had to shoot with masks on and all the protocols. But when we went to Hawaii, we were quarantining, and the numbers there were a lot lower. And because we were all quarantined together, we kind of created our own bubble. So we got to be like real friends and real, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, we would be able to just hang out and chill. And, and we were in this beautiful place. We're at the Oahu Whale House, which is, this place, beautiful house that you can rent out for your family. And
make movies in.
Exactly. So it just was a very amazing. So that's the whole cast wanted to come back together, even though they were spread out all over the United States, New York, California, North Carolina, everywhere. So Florida, but everybody wanted to come back, and it's kind of a testament to like the relationships that we had from the first one kind of carrying over.
Well, it was interesting. You know, my buddy Skylar, I think, was like your gaffer.
Yeah.
You know, because he had just gaffed a movie that I produced.
Oh, nice.
You know, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm heading to Hawaii for Mac's movie." I'm like, "Dude, that's amazing. That's so good that they're doing that." And I know he had a great time. But what was really cool was to see Bart there with Balin and Wyatt.
Yeah.
Like I love that. You know, like because like those are his actual kids.
Yeah.
And I don't think Balin and White have ever acted in anything, and they did.
I mean, they've done high school plays and stuff, and they've auditioned, but this was their first movie.
Their first movie, and they were great.
Yeah,
you know, I was like, oh my gosh, like good job, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought that those guys all did really, really well. But do you feel though that like what do you hope that the audiences will get from this movie versus Once I Was a Beehive?
You know, I hope people will come and laugh really hard. There's a lot of big laugh out loud moments. It is very much a rom com. You know, heavy on the comedy. You know, got some good romance too, but it's heavy on the comedy. And also, kind of like with Once It Was a Beehive, we hit you hard with comedy, but we had a message in there. You know, we have something that I want people to come away there with the message about, you know, that basically we're exploring a time in people's lives. A lot of people make these decisions in their early 20s where that affect the rest of their life.
Yes.
What college they're going to, you know, in the Latter-day Saint culture, whether or not you're going on a mission.
Yeah.
You know, getting married, you're choosing someone for the rest of your life and beyond, if you believe that. You know, so it happens at such a young age. I wanted to kind of explore like all the ups and downs, the pressures, the roller coaster ride that it feels like to be making these decisions at such a young age. And there's a lot of fun to be had. And then, you know, basically the main message is to, when you're making these hard decisions, to trust yourself. Yeah. To be brave and to really listen to your heart and, you know, your inspiration, and not really be, don't give in to outside pressures. Yeah. Don't give in to, but just, you know, just make sure that you're making these choices for yourself, and you're being brave. And I mean, that's a universal, you know, principle. And sometimes, you know, that can get overlooked because we want to, you know, you want to have the, you know, and also when we talk about our weddings and our engagements, like, all the craziness. People kind of whitewash and just tell like the fairy tale where we fell in love and it was perfect, and we're, you know what I mean? But like, we kind of explore kind of like the things that happen, you know what I mean? Where like, you know, ex girlfriends or boyfriends kind of come out of the woodwork and say, "Hey, what's going on? Are you sure?" You know what I mean? And like all these pressures come out. So, you know, like we didn't want to whitewash it and make it look just like pretty and fancy. We wanted to make, you know, all the ups and downs that makes an engagement, and so that's our goal, for people to experience that with us.
Well, you know, I think it's such a powerful thing, because I remember I had a former mission companion friend of mine who is recently going through a divorce, and he and I were chatting about it, and he was saying, you know what? He's like, Sharon, I honestly think that when I got married, I think I got married because of the expectation of getting married. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, dude, like there's just so much pressure sometimes, and like, you know, like the church says this, the LDS culture, like the prophet said this, or like this is what we're supposed to do. Yeah. This is what needs to happen. And so that storyline got in my head, and it gets into a lot of people's heads, you know? And that's what I did. Yeah. And he's like, sometimes I wonder if I truly ever loved my wife. And I'm like, oh, it's tough to say that. You know? He's like, she's a wonderful person. She really is. And so anyway, they're kind of going through divorce right now. And the good thing is they're very, very cordial. They're they're friends, and they understand, and she's very mature, and they're trying to make it as easy of a transition as possible, which is awesome. but I think that's such a tough thing because there's so many people. Like I've been look. I'm one of the me and Liana Koalas. We were discussing this at the thing. It's like, are we the two that didn't get married? You know, and so it was funny because like I felt like your movie premiere was like a massive high school reunion because like so many of our high school friends were there. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, there's a lot of folks that have gotten married or just because of the culture have been like, yep, this is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then they realize like, hey, it's not all that like simple. It's not all that easy.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually really glad that you explored bits of that in your film because you're kind of making people aware that, hey, look, I know what people say, but what does your heart say?
Yeah.
And I love, like, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a part where at the beginning of the film, she writes a letter, right, to her older self about this day. And I think that's a very powerful thing to do, you know? And it's good. I think it's important to, like, trust your heart in these type of situations and stuff and kind of figure out, like, hey, where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I love it. Now, what are you hoping with the movie? Like, what do you hope people will...
Well, I hope people get to see it in the theaters. It's
is it going to be out? Is it going to be out there for a while?
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the tricky thing with independent films is that you never know how long it's going to be in the theaters because it all depends on if people are going or not.
Yes.
People don't realize it's not like a set time. It's like if the movie's doing well and people are going, the theaters want to make, you know, more money, so they will keep it in the theaters. If you're not ranking and a new movie's coming in and you're at the, like, there's 10 screens at your theater and you're number 9 or number 10.
Yeah.
If 2 new movies are coming in, you're gone.
Right.
So, or they're cutting your show times or so yeah, we really want people to see it in the theaters because that really sends a message to all the different channels in Hollywood that, you know, these movies are important, that people want more of them.
Yeah.
That they should put them on Netflix. They should put them on, you know, they should have them more easily available to other people. And so yeah, I'm hoping people go see it with their families, you know, like you don't have to know the first movie to know this.
Yeah, it's a standalone film.
It stands alone. It's not like a true sequel. It's more of a spin-off. So I just hope people go see it, take their families, and I hope it sparks discussion. So far, everybody's saying, like, they laughed so hard, but then they found themselves talking about the movie afterwards because they shared a story they haven't shared about their own engagement in marriage, or they shared, you know, an experience they heard of, or, you know, or like a younger kid who is just maybe in their teens saying, like, asking these questions and basically... Yeah, you know, it's a way into, you know, good conversations with families about really important things.
Absolutely. So. And it's interesting too because it's like, I don't know, I found it like if you're an active like Latter-day Saint, there's so many things you can relate with it. And even if you're not a member of the faith, I think there's still a lot of things you're going to be able to relate with it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what's so cool is even though it's kind of a niche film, it has a lot of universal truths that people can take for themselves, which I think is really powerful. Like I think of even like the Hindu culture where I originally came from, and like it's a very family oriented society as well. And so I think there's a lot of like similarities that you can take with
Absolutely.
So I kind of want to shift topics a little bit. Now, part of the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast is discussing people's lemonade stand stories, which means in their lives, they have been dealt lemons. They've been dealt blows. And then they're able to shift it and turn it into lemonade. Like, has there ever been a moment in your own life where you're like, oh, that was a lemon. That was a blow.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, we're filmmakers, so that's like a daily occurrence. But
I feel like, you know, my wife and I, so my wife plays Bree Carrington in this movie, the one who's getting engaged. And, you know, we've been in this industry, you know, since I started in 2003. Yeah. She started after she graduated college in 2008. And we've had huge ups and downs. You know what I mean? We've had times when we've just been, you know, just you have a movie, you have a script that's going well, and then people just decide, no, we're not doing this, and just you feel like all this work goes down the toilet. I mean, I'd say the biggest lemon for us, obviously, and I know this is a lemon for everybody, but when the pandemic hit, we literally lost all of our jobs.
Yeah.
We were shooting Hallmark movies and they just all got canceled. And we didn't know what we were going to do for, to pay our rent, you know what I mean? And
you guys live like in LA, like
we live in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's
not a cheap place to live.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when we were like, well, maybe we can scrape together some budget. I mean, we know some people that have been interested in our past films and some investor types. And start pitching it around, and kind of like out of necessity, we're like, well, we have to do something on our own. We have to make something, because otherwise we'll be sitting around and we'll have no ability to make, a living. So that lemon, that giant lemon, we definitely turned into something which we think is very delicious lemonade.
It's very delicious with some sugar in there.
Yeah, I mean, like, so we've I think in the arts, it's a constant up and down.
Well, dude, especially if you're an independent filmmaker, it's like you're climbing Mount Everest every single time. It's tough. It's very tough to like make ends meet a lot of times, because in independent film, like, I feel like the rules change all the time. Like, as far as like, oh, this is the distribution model now. This is how you're going to make money and everything. Versus like a studio system where you're almost like a steady type of paycheck. But it's amazing that you've been able to like withstand the test of time and withstand a pandemic. Because that's it was not easy for anybody.
Absolutely. And like I said, like some people, I hate. You shouldn't ever really compare hardships, because, I know that ours was, some people lost their lives, some people lost family members. And so to kind of compare it as like, wasn't near that. But, I heard a really good analogy about this is like, we were all in the same flood.
Yeah.
Some people had a boat. Some people had a yacht. Some people had a rowboat size. Some people just had a piece of wood, and some people maybe had like
a life jacket or something.
You know what I mean? So that was interesting to kind of put it in perspective. Like, we were all in it together, but some people just had some more resources. And I feel like I was maybe, in like a little rowboat, where the waves hit us hard, but we weren't in, and anyway, just, it's important to just keep all that stuff in perspective too.
Absolutely.
Because, we just wanted to be, sensitive to kind of what people were going through. But it was an interesting time for everybody.
Yeah, it was a very interesting thing. I remember, it was just crazy. Like I came to set of a movie that Claire was directing, because they wanted to possibly use me as like a stunt body double or something for a character that I was already like, there's no way they're going to use me. Like, I don't even look like the guy, you know? But even just coming to set, I had to get COVID tested. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to be in the movie. Yeah. But it was funny because Brent Geisler and I, who's a good friend of mine, we were kind of chatting about just kind of the insanity of like shooting during like last year. It was crazy. Yeah. And especially, shooting movies in the union, there were so many protocols you had to take. And it's amazing that you were able to like come through, you had some battle wounds, but you were able to like, lick them off and be like, all right, let's kind of go again, and
I mean, we had to shut down for a week because somebody got tested positive anyway.
Oh, man.
But no one really wants to hear about COVID.
No one wants to hear about that, you know? So I just want to have a couple last questions for you.
Great.
What brings you joy right now?
This dog brings me joy, even though she's a little bit of a nut. But, the principle behind a dog, like anything you unconditionally love, like brings you a lot of joy. My wife and I have a ton of fun. We work together. We collaborate together, and we're apart, sometimes because we're on different projects. But because we're both kind of have a similar goal and we're working together, like, we always have this joy and this camaraderie and this kind of like shared experience, so that and then times it's great when we do get to work together, like with this one, we're together 24 hours a day for 3 months in a row.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that, don't have that, even if they see that you have a 9-to-5 type job, you're away from your spouse a lot, but like she and I, so our relationship brings us a ton of joy.
And that's amazing, Mac. Honestly, that's
thanks.
so amazing because I know I know a lot of people like they're like, oh no, we could never like our lives are separate and we'll like spend a little bit of time, but like you guys are working together, and having joy. And I have to interject because there's something. It was hilarious. Matt Matson and I, who's a good friend of yours as well. We were chatting. We kept trying to get your attention at the premiere, but we're like, he's too busy. But what people don't know is like when Claire turned 30, you threw like the biggest birthday bash for her at Lake Arrowhead, I believe, I think. And we like rented a couple cabins and stuff like that. And it was just so insanely fun. So many people showed up and we kept being like, when's Claire's next birthday party? When is that going to happen? Because we need it. But that was the thing. Like it was just, you always knew like how to like bring people together,
Thanks,
and celebrate things that like you really really honored your wife there and like and did things that you like knew that she was going to love, like when we all made like those homemade movies and stuff like that. It was just so much fun, right? So I just love that you have that ability to do that. But anyway, I know I cut you off a little bit, but you were saying though about like working with Claire for like 3 months or so. What other things are you like kind of grateful for?
I mean, I'm very grateful for laughter. I think comedy does really heal the soul. I think that it's very important. And I'm very lucky to have a lot of, yourself included, a lot of very hilarious friends that are able to, that's one great way you do make lemonade out of lemons. You can joke about it and it helps you laugh, and then it helps you deal with it, and it helps you realize that other people are going through that same stuff and you're just a part of the whole experience, and laughter kind of gets you through it. So, I mean, that like doing improv comedy, I do the show off show on BYU TV and I get to like just laugh and make jokes and be characters and do a bunch of amazing improvised like plays and musicals with my friends. And it's just, what could be better?
What can
you know
be
what
better?
I mean? Like what can be better than just having fun and laughing and sharing that? And
I just think, I think about my time in LA. I lived there for almost 10 years. Yeah. And I was talking to some friends of mine. They're like, well, what do you miss about LA? And I'm like, my friends. Honestly, like the amount of good times we had over there, and like all the ridiculousness, whether we were getting at Will Rubio's house or we were going to the beach or whatever we were doing, we always like, and what was cool was every single one of our friends were like so different from each other in certain ways, and then also very similar, but yet we got together all the time. We laughed, and it was a good thing. Okay, so 2 more questions. What's your greatest fear?
Oh gosh. My greatest fear. This is a hard one. This is a very vulnerable question.
It is a vulnerable question.
My greatest fear is like losing my wife.
Yeah, that'd be
like losing that relationship. Yeah, that's the thing I have nightmares about. That's the thing that I, we're just, when you find your best friend and you like, you share everything with them and you just want to be with them always. Like, it's really hard to find that. And, and so to think about losing that can almost,
Yeah. How did you two meet then?
I was teaching an improv class at her college, like a 2-day intensive workshop at University of Tampa. She's quite a bit younger than me, and but I mean, it wasn't weird. She was like a senior in college, and I was like, and it wasn't like I was her professor, but it was just like it was a 2-day workshop that I came in as like an industry professional, and we just hit it off. And after the second workshop, we all went to IHOP, and the students wanted to chat with me about the industry and all that, and we just sat next to each other, and one by one people left, and at the end of the night it was just the two of us, and we talked for like 3 hours. I
Wow.
got her number and got on the plane the next day, and I just called her and we talked again, and she literally just said, well, call me tomorrow. And, you know, like the next day I called her again for 3 hours, and 6 weeks later I was like, I have to come back and see you. Like, I'm going to pretend that I'm going to set up another improv workshop, but it's going to be to see you. And so, it was kind of like this long distance thing for a year. And then, you know, I think with the long distance, I'm telling you the whole story. I don't know.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
With the long distance, you kind of realize you have to like be in the same city for a while. So she was brave and moved. You know, talk about being brave.
Yeah. And trusting your heart.
Yeah, and trusting her heart. She literally moved out to Utah, got an apartment not too far from where my house was, and just started working on films out here just to see if, you know, she left New York. She was just finished a Broadway like musical tour, and she came out and was like willing to take a bet on, you know, and just see where our things went as a relationship. And after a year of dating in the same place, I proposed to her, and we definitely had our ups and downs during the engagement.
Sure,
like big time. Like there were several times where it almost
really.
Oh yeah,
collapsed.
Oh yeah, I'd say about a month before.
Oh my gosh,
it almost all was just gone.
Really? And I did not know any of this.
Oh yeah. Oh, see, people don't talk about it until it's like you're on the spot. But like, you know, it wasn't because we didn't love each other. It was just because of like, she is a different religion than me. She was raised Catholic, and you know, I'm an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ. So it's like there was a big, you know, mostly similarities, but some differences, enough that you got to really think about it. And we went to premarital counseling, and we talked about everything. And in the end, you know, like we both made the decision to get married, and I'm so glad we did. Like, but it was one of those moments where it's like, it's always a choice. Marriage is always a choice. Yeah. But I really feel like I was supposed to at least meet her and connect with her, because it really had one weekend to do it. And if we didn't connect that weekend, I would have never seen her again.
Wouldn't have seen her again. So, well, the thing is like, as you're telling me the story, I just keep thinking like it was all about choices. Yeah. It was all about like trusting your heart and taking that leap of faith and making that choice and saying like, hey, is this worth it? Is it not worth it? You know? And I think like that sums up your movie. It sums up life, really, you know? And I love that you did that. And, you know, kind of going back to your fear, like, it's like, I think if you guys keep choosing each other every single day, then there is nothing to fear, right? And like you just keep making that same choice over and over again. Yeah. So I love that. So last question for you, Mac. What advice would you give your younger self, the one that just graduated high school?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I would give my younger self, let me think about this for 1 second. Yeah. I don't just have these like on the cuff ready to go.
Dude, I know.
I would say, however hard you think you need to work, you got to work a little bit harder.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You know, like I think, especially in the arts. Yeah. You just have to work a little bit harder, because everybody wants to do their first film. Everybody wants to be an act, you know, so many people, it's such a competitive industry, and there's only so many, you know, it's just, you just have to work harder to let me rephrase that, because I don't think there's a limited number of jobs, because you can always just create your own.
Of course.
That's the cool thing about this industry. But you're kind of taught that, like, okay, you just have to wait until someone discovers you. But no, if you work really hard and you try to like learn all the different aspects, not just acting, but writing and directing and producing and anything, even doing things like on crew, like costume design or wardrobe or, you know, all those things help you to be a better filmmaker. And so I would have told myself to just work a little harder, to just to not have an ego, and to just, you know, treat my you know, because as an actor, you don't have a 9 to 5, but you got to still treat it like a 9 to 5. You have to like put in 40 hours a week of something. You know, even if no one's paying you. Yeah. You know, so it took me a while to realize like, oh, okay, if I want to be a writer, I have to work 40 hours a week, even though people aren't. I just sit by my computer and I have to write something. You know, so.
Yeah. Well, there's this principle. Like, there's two thoughts I had. One is work begets work. Yeah. You know, like, and I've always known you to be someone that works. Yeah. You're constantly working, whether you're getting paid for it or not. You're constantly working, and more often than not, like I know for myself, there's a lot of work I've done. There's no pay there.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. Same.
And then the other thing is like something I believe Steve Martin said was like, you know, you be so good that they just can't say no.
Yeah, they can't ignore you.
They can't ignore you. That's what it was, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like that's kind of what you're doing. You know, you're creating such goodness out there that it will come back to you, and it's going to continue to come back, and you're going to continue to help bring more light to the world. You know, so.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I'm so thankful that you came on this podcast. Yeah. And listeners, for all of you out there, please check out Once I Was Engaged. It's in theaters. Is it in theaters right now?
Yes, it's in theaters all over Utah right now.
Right now.
Okay. So go this week, because it's very important for us to, you know, send a message to the theaters that you guys want more movies like this. And then we expand to Arizona, Idaho, and Nevada on August 6th. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's like, I mean, it's basically Father of the Bride meets My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Yeah. But set in, you know.
In Hawaii.
Yeah, in Hawaii. So it's you'll have a lot of fun. All ages, men and women, you know. It's great for date night. It's great for family night. It's great for, you know, just a group of friends to get together and go see. But, yeah.
And you'll learn some incredible life lessons, honestly. You really will. So, yeah, please go support Maclain and this movie. It's a fantastic movie, and we need more type of films like this out there. So we would love for it if you guys would support this.
And Roxy, or Tink, this is Tink, but she plays Roxy in the movie.
Yes.
And she definitely wants people to go see it. All right, Tinky? Yeah.
Oh, man, like whenever you lick someone's nose, that's like the sign.
That's
a sign.
That's the affirmative.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for coming on. Thanks so much, Roxy, for your contribution. Your panting is amazing. And we'll chat later.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know.